Medieval Europeans used the 2nd century Roman abracadabra healing charm by writing the word and shrinking it line by line. In Scandinavia, rune writers used variations on this word, and possibly also the principle behind it. Today, let's look at what they did and what those patterns may have been for. Hello, Rune Scholar. I'm the modern Erilar, and in my episode on runic charm words, I introduced the Osen cross from Gaular parish in Norway, an inscription that adapts a Mediterranean magical formula. The Abracadabra formula, first recorded in the 2nd century by Quintus Serenus Simonicus, works by reduction. The word is written, then shortened line by line. The shrinking text was meant to cause a corresponding shrinking of disease. On the Osen cross, we see a compressed version. Abracalara, abraca, abraca, abra. It still reduces, but faster than other surviving abracadabra formulae from the Mediterranean tradition. That suggests adaptation, not direct copying. The text does not specify whether the application was medical or more generally protective. And this is not the only example of a variation on abracadabra in a Scandinavian runic inscription with a possible magical application. The material falls into 2 broad types. First, inscriptions that clearly echo abracadabra using similar words. Second, inscriptions that abandon the word and focus on the sequence. A lead amulet from Tårnborg and a plate from Bergen both preserve distorted versions of abracadabra, forms like abakalaba or abrabalraba. The wording is unstable, but the idea is recognizable. The Mediterranean abracadabra, just adapted. More interesting are inscriptions that discard recognizable words entirely and keep only the structure, increasing or decreasing sequences. For example, the Sunnarby plate has an interesting progression using mirrored þurs runes, the belg-þórr rune that was added to the Futhark during the medieval period. The first character looks like a normal belg-þórr with a double bellows, and the second with a double bellows, the third a triple, and so on, while on the other side the sign had at least 5 bellows. If we think back to our various types of encrypted runes, we can recognize a familiar pattern that may indicate the sequence 1, 2, 3. And if we consider them to be coordinate runes, these signs could spell tyr, náðr, þurs, which doesn't make a word, and Magnus Kjellström already pointed out that this doesn't make any linguistic sense. A bronze pendant from Sulestad Church in Denmark may also have a similar sequence of single-sided þurs runes. K. Jonas Nordby suggested that these indicate the progression 1, 2, 3. The þurs runes on lead plate A284 are again one-sided, but the increased pattern here is 2, 3, 4, together with at least 2 sequences of repeated or A runes. The rest of the inscription is meaningful, utilizing Christian formulas, names of angels, and probably the personal name Gunnlaug. The Rothschild bronze amulet, on the other hand, shows us a decreasing sequence of belg-þórr runes, 3, 2, 1, interrupted by an extended star rune. If we try to interpret all 4 runes as coordinate runes, as K. Jonas Nordby has suggested, we could potentially discern the sequence 3, 2, 2, 1. One of the 12th century inscriptions on the rock at Stórhæðir in Aust-Agder contains multiple runes that show an increasing number of staves. 5 of its runes appear to be our now familiar numerical characters with increasing value from 1 to 5, where 1, 2, and 3 are variations on the þurs rune, and 4 and 5 could be perceived as malm or maldr, the M rune with 4 and 5 sets of twigs. Sigtuna plate 5 has the distinction of having the same inscription on both sides. Due to where Sofia Persvetov-Morat has provided a redrawing based on the surviving areas, and again the inscription uses a belg-þórr rune, but the stave here is written with 2 vertical lines instead of 1. The belg-þórr repeats 3 times, and then we see a character that looks like 2 belg-þórr runes vertically stacked, resembling a mirrored björk rune, again repeated 3 times. Then a triple stacked belg-þórr continues the pattern. This inscription also begins with the medieval tvímóðr rune, and the last 2 runes again seem to be variations on the mon or maldr rune. So we have a second instance combining a þurs variation with a mon variation. So among all these examples, what patterns can we identify? These inscriptions are either fully non-lexical, meaning their runes do not form intelligible words, or large segments of the inscription are in languages from outside Scandinavia. As of early 2026, I'm not aware of any inscriptions written in runes that are direct copies of the Abracadabra charm as written in the Liber Medicinalis. Any versions that resemble it directly use Latin letters. Each increasing or decreasing sequence shown here may indicate a numerical value instead of a sound value, so the structure here is important. Þurs is by far the most popular rune used in this way, but we have multiple instances of variations on the Malm rune as well. What might the application of runic increase and decrease sequences have been? Those clearly and more directly influenced by the Mediterranean abracadabra tradition, those which use similar words in decreasing sequences, may have been similarly applied in contemporary medicine, as were many medieval runic amulets. Those that increase or decrease without a clear connection to the word abracadabra are harder to explain. Some 20th century scholars proposed numerology and fixed values to the runes. That approach has largely been rejected. Runologists do agree on a simpler explanation that these are structured sequences, though that is where the agreement ends, as the texts rarely give an explicit function and we're left with what it implies. The repeated use of the þurs rune, however, is hard to ignore, especially given its name. In the Nordic story world, þurs is a harmful or disruptive being, usually translated as giant in the sagas, but nature spirit may be closer to its original concept. Increasing or decreasing its presence in a sequence may have been a way to modulate harm or threat, adding, removing, or controlling it. Across these inscriptions, runes are not primarily used to spell words. They're used to build sequences, growing, shrinking, and repeating. Meaning is carried by the structure, not the language. We may not be able to recover exactly how contemporary rune writers used these inscriptions, but the pattern is consistent. Form was treated as meaningful in itself, not just as a vehicle for words. Next time, we'll look at another pattern where meaning comes from symmetry, runic palindromes. Thank you for reading the runes with me, the modern Erilar.